I'm going to say this. Jared Goff hasn't been very good the last couple of years, okay?
He hasn't.
I mean, there's no other way to say that. Eye test, looking at the numbers or anything. Now, does that mean that he's going to come here and stink less? I think he's going to stink more, but I don't know that definitively, okay? I'm not going to look in the Jared Goff's going to bounce back. I don't know that definitively. All I can do is tell you definitively what's happened the last couple of years. He hasn't been good. That's all, okay? So when PFF came out with their quarterback rankings, they ranked Goff as a bottom-tier quarterback. He ranked 26 out of 32 active starting quarterbacks. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it is fair.
Terry?
That's pretty eye-opening. But talked to my boy Stick today, and he's saying how much better Goff is than Matthew Stafford. But if I had asked him that question a year ago, he would say Stafford is better.
No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
It all depends on who's wearing the Honolulu blue.
You know what's funny? Terry, I'm going to use what you just said, and I'm going to apply that to me. If you asked me a year ago, I might have said Goff, because at that time, Goff only had the one less than year. And that at that point in time, it would be an exception, because we've talked about it many times on the show. He had a good year, he had a great year, he had a less than year. Okay, so maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. But to have two less than years in a row on a better team with better weapons and be the turnover machine that
Better
he's been.
what?
Weapons.
But they had weapons, though. They
did. The Rams had better weapons.
Yeah,
the Rams had better weapons. There's no doubt about it. But and to be the turnover machine that he was, that scares me to death when, newsflash, the Lions don't have the weapons that the Rams have going into this season.
I'm going to tell you the weapons we do have, which might make his job a little bit easier, is our O-line is, for the first time in a while, the strength of our team right now. And
that was a weakness for the Rams, in fairness, to your point.
Right.
Yep.
And so going forward, moving forward, depending on how much time he has in that pocket, and we've seen what less than quarterbacks can do when they have time in the pocket. We've seen that.
Oh, have we ever?
Yeah. We've seen
You
that.
watch Matt Patricia's defenses the last couple of years?
Yeah. And you look back and say a Trubisky came through and torched us, and he's a very bottom-tier quarterback in this league, right? Second string at best, a solid second stringer. Give him time to grow. Bring him here to a team like this right now. Now we don't have the receivers that he once had, but any receiver can get open. He has 4 or 5 seconds. Come on, So that's the upside we have with Goff right now.
Based on the last couple of years, and this is the argument, and I think this is where people get confused. Again, I'm not going to sit. I don't know how it's going to end here. I have my doubts. I'm openly going to tell you, but when I have discussions with Young Stick and some of the people on our, whether it be YouTube or Facebook, what are you arguing? There's no. He hasn't been good the last 2 years. That's non-negotiable. That's non-debatable. He's been a turnover machine. That's real. I'm not making anything up. I'm not being a hater.
But I want you to understand this. When people look at Jared Goff, they're going to look at his accomplishments when he comes here, not what he's done recently. They're going to look at everything he's done before.
No, I get that, but
you can only go up. This is a right now league. So I agree with you. This is a right now league.
1,000%.
What can you do for me right now?
This goes back to something you weren't here on Monday. Terry and I were having this conversation. It is not our job to tell you that everything's going to be okay and pet you and say
that is true.
Everything. And
right.
So people get mad at Terry when Terry speaks the truth about the Lions. People get mad at, and things like that. It's like, I always call it misguided anger. Well, what are you mad at me for? I'm not the general manager. I'm not the guy that created a turnover a game.
Because we have people in this town, like Mr. Art, who only wants honey and bubble baths. He doesn't want you to say anything negative about his team, no matter how true it may be. That if you just ignore it, or if you ignore the problems, they'll just go away.
Is that love? To see a problem with someone that you love and say, you know what, I love you, so to continue to do it, even though it's going to be detrimental down the line. Now, is it more love if you go to them and be upfront and say, this is what you need to do to fix things? Or, you know, we can't bring it up on the show, but, you know, these are things that might be happening in some people's lives that might put them in the position they're in right now.
You, look, sometimes, you know, people say, oh, you're being negative. No. You bring up the problem so maybe it gets corrected. Instead of just, you know, the emperor's walking down the street with no clothes on and
Tell
you
him
don't
how good
say
he looks.
anything. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good-looking suit. Don't know if it's silk
It's a
or
good-looking
what.
brother right there.
Right.
No, and
good-looking
it's see, and Joik, it's funny. This is my stick loves to throw. Both things can be true here. I can love the Lions. A human being can love the Lions,
Yeah.
and you can look at where they're at right now and go, all right, they're not good right now, but they're cognizant of what the issues have been. To your point,
Yeah.
And now they're trying to build up legitimately, and that's exactly where I'm at. It's not there yet. It's not going to happen this year. But boy, even a guy like Terry, the early returns, you have to be.
I see a future. How about that?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. For Jared Goff to be successful here, he has to have time in the pocket. He doesn't have that arm talent to be able to run and throw those crazy passes on a zip and squeeze passes through tiny holes. He doesn't have that arm strength. What he does have is a great football IQ to where if he sits back in that pocket, he has time, he can pick you apart. And that's just about every quarterback in the NFL if they have time. You know, so let's see what happens.
Ranked 26 of 32 active quarterbacks. What does that mean?
That should be a chip on the shoulder, though.
What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? All jokes aside, nothing. I mean, he has a chance to give them the middle finger this year and say,
Yeah, he
screw
does.
you. I got time to throw. And, you know, I think what we're going to find out is how much of it was McVay and how much of it was Goff. We'll find that out fairly quickly, I think, because that's what a lot of people have said. They want to blame McVay's system and people, quote unquote, figuring out McVay's system for what ails Goff. And I don't know how necessarily
I think
true that is.
McVay gave up on Goff a little
There's
bit.
no doubt about it.
He's like,
no doubt about it.
This guy's bad now, so
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do what I did in the past.
All right, so this, and as I sit here, you know, and we had this conversation before, Sean, that we think he is going to be a placeholder. But if he comes in and say he does well, which the way it's looking, he might be able to do something this year to when he comes back next year and put some more pieces, add some more pieces next year. He might be able to be here for a few more years. I'm
Would
just
be
saying.
unbelievably beneficial to this franchise if somehow, some way, he looked like the guy in 2018 or 2017 again. Because, Joy, think of it this way.
You want to trade?
That's one less high first-round pick you would have to use in a quarterback. You could go address something else. If he looks like the guy from 17 or 18, keep him. Why would you do that?
But I don't think he's going to look
He
like
won't.
that just because of the weapons that he's going to have this year. Next year, he might have more of an opportunity to reach those heights. I don't think it's going to be this year, but I think you'll be able to see signs and flashes of 2017, 2018 this year.
I am convinced he's gone after 2 years.
But then if he does show some promise with more weapons, then I think what your point is then you don't have to draft that quarterback.
No.
I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback next year. I think they're going to, make sure that he gets his opportunities. But the year after, they might draft one. But if the guy looks good, you might I think I'm going to take a defensive end instead.
But that's what I'm saying, though. You got to think that'll be going into year 3. Mm-hmm. Right? They'll be going. So he goes this year. Boom. He does well. Comes back out next year. They don't draft a quarterback next year. He plays well. And then we're going to get rid of him the following year, then draft a quarterback? No. If anything, draft a quarterback next year, have him play under Goff for a year.
Well, I think that's what Terry's saying.
That's what you're trying to say, Terry?
Next year.
So draft a quarterback. But if he plays well this year, there's no need to draft a quarterback next year. That's what I'm saying.
But I think we're
don't have to
assuming
address that.
you'd have to assume that because the team won't be good, that he's not going to look great. So would you in
That's why
2022 draft a quarterback?
I need you to get the wax out your ears. What I'm saying is if he does well this year, there won't be a need to draft a quarterback next year. That's what Sean is saying. So if he plays well this year, we don't draft a quarterback next year because he's done well. And I'm not saying he's going to have a great season, but we see flashes and we see he's making good football decisions, and he's not at the height of 2017 and 18, but you can tell he's not making dumb mistakes. He's not turning the ball over. He's been smart with the ball. I don't think his numbers are going to be great with passing yards just because of the weapons he has, but he can still make some. He can be a good manager.
I get the point that you're making, but here's the problem with hypothetical conversations. This guy is not put in a position to succeed here. He just isn't. I mean, it's nice that they have an offensive line, but there's, as you know, there has to be some fluidity and continuity with that line for it to really come together, especially with a couple of young pieces on there. Yeah. And he doesn't have the weapons. I mean, if he goes off this year, I'm telling you, number one, my jaw would drop, and number two, I'd go, I'm dead wrong about this guy. Yeah. He's not put in a position to succeed right now. I
hear what you're saying, but the more I look into the position that he's in, the more I say, I want to see how the seasons unfold. I want to see how it unfolds.
A couple questions when we come back. I want to tell you about Sun RV Resorts because a good conversation happening on Facebook. I know Steve agrees with all of us. I think they're taking a quarterback next year. But the question is, which quarterback will you take? You're talking to the right guy because just this morning, my friends in here were ripping on me because I finished, in the time I was here, 4 different 2022 mock drafts. Fish said, how many did you do in the last 5 minutes? Fish, do you remember the answer?
2.
I did 2. I did 2 in the 5 minutes before we went to the show. So there are some names out there, and the one thing I always tell people that they forget every year, I'll remind you about heading into next college football season.